Hello TPP Universe, I'm Christopher Billings, and I'm the voice of Next Gen CAW Training. Now I would like to welcome all of you here tonight, as this is the inaugural show, the inaugural episode. And I just want to point out to everybody in the back that has a match tonight, all eyes are on you. I understand that, but do not let that upset you or get you overwhelmed. We're here to help you, and we're all here to watch you succeed. So always, every time you come out here, put your best foot forward. And just to give everybody an idea of what to expect, match-wise and critique-wise, what we will do at the end of the show is review the match of the night of every match that has been on Next Gen CAW Training. So I thank you all for joining us tonight. I'm looking forward to getting things started. I'm going to go ahead and sit at the broadcast booth. So I hope you guys are ready, because I sure am. And I hope everybody in the back is ready. And welcome to NGCT. Hello again, TPP Universe. Christopher Billings here, the voice of the power plant, the voice of Next Gen CAW Training. And as you just heard me say, this is all about new wrestlers, new superstars, new divas, getting the opportunity to train in our TPP training facility. And I for one, am ready to get this underway. I hope you are ready, because surprisingly, I didn't ever think this would happen, but James Anderson, returning to TPP on Next Gen CAW Training. And he's got a match tonight against a very young and hungry Nick Rodriguez, who's making his debut tonight. But for James Anderson, you got to think on a personal level, he might take this as a little bit of a kind of a shot to the knee, because he's a former TPP Adrenaline champion, and he's got to watch Reckoning this Saturday and watch others compete for the Adrenaline Championship, while he only gets to compete on NGCT right now. So for Anderson, he's going to have a little bit of rage, I'd imagine, but I'm expecting this to be a very good, well thought out matchup between the both of these. I'm excited to see the debut of Nick Rodriguez, and I'm sure that James Anderson himself will do just fine on NGCT. And as I was saying, Reckoning is this weekend. We've got Frontline tomorrow night. We've got Strike Zone on Thursday. And just all kinds of excitement. Not a dull moment this week, that's for sure. Lots and lots of work. But this young man, Nick Rodriguez, he's coming here and he's hungry. He's hungry to compete. He's hungry for exposure. And that is what every wrestler should be, is hungry. You need to be hungry and you need to want to do all these magical things. And then plus, we don't just have debuts tonight. We've actually got a very special main event for you guys that I'm sure you guys will enjoy. But we're getting ready to see James Anderson and Nick Rodriguez tie it up here. And I, for one, am looking forward to this. I've heard great things about Nick Rodriguez, and I've seen James Anderson in action, so I know what James Anderson is capable of. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what this young man, Nick Rodriguez, can bring to the table. So, Rodriguez versus Anderson. We're getting ready to get this underway right now. Here we go. And as you see, right from the get-go, Rodriguez getting the fans' support behind him. And Nick Rodriguez and James Anderson are both very similar in size. And from the get-go here, Anderson, a little bit of the veteran in this matchup. Using a basic wrestling takedown there, and then pointing right to the face. But Rodriguez answers into a rear tie-up here, switches positions to a side wrist lock, and now into a side headlock. And look at the speed of Rodriguez, quickly tucking himself. Anderson thought he had him in a side headlock there, but Rodriguez was able to roll it through and slam Anderson onto his back. And as you see, Rodriguez is getting the better of Anderson right now. No matter what Anderson thinks about Rodriguez right now, Rodriguez is really lighting up Anderson, and a flurry of strikes here, and a little bit of a dance and a big right hand there from Nick Rodriguez. And now we're going to possibly see Anderson, big right hand there, just seating Nick Rodriguez, completely seating him there, as Rodriguez got back to his feet. Beautiful standing drop salt there. Rodriguez loves the fans, getting the TPP universe, those in attendance tonight, getting them behind him and supporting him. As you see Anderson now trying to get something going, but Nick Rodriguez is a very intelligent young man here, and he knows his way around the ring. And I'm excited to see the future of Nick Rodriguez. And as you see, Rodriguez just lighting up James Anderson right now. And for Anderson, he hasn't been able to get out of the starting gates. Rodriguez has constantly been striking and brawling with Anderson. I don't think Anderson's used that into the cover here. One, and only a 1 count as Anderson was able to get his shoulder up before the 2. And now Anderson sending Rodriguez to the ropes. Tried for a shoulder block there, but Rodriguez was able to stop him from knocking him down. Oh, a drop kick right to the knee there from Anderson. Now Anderson going to start working on the legs, try to take out the speed of Nick Rodriguez, and that would be one way to definitely get the match in his favor here. And now Anderson again singling out the knee. And I've noticed that throughout my many years of broadcasting, wrestlers will start to focus on, especially the leg limbs. They'll start focusing on those, and it'll start to cause issues. And what is Anderson doing here? Big flip senton to the outside there. And Nick Rodriguez jumped right back up to his feet. You know, that was almost a 10-foot fall, but you got to believe that was adrenaline there that did that. Now Anderson here on the outside as the referee is counting. The referee has up to a 10 count here to utilize, which I, for one, don't want to see this matchup end in a count out from either of these competitors. So for Anderson, we're seeing a side of Anderson, the frustrated side, the angry side. And Anderson, big front standing drop or missile drop kick from the top rope, going for the cover here. 1, 2, and a 2 count for James Anderson. And we're still relatively early in this matchup, but a quick Japanese arm drag there, followed up by a beautiful float over head scissors by Rodriguez. And now Rodriguez is going to work on Anderson, and Rodriguez jumps in. A drop kick right to the side of the shoulder. Did not knock down Anderson, and that standing drop kick did, though. And now Rodriguez into the cover here. 1, 2, and a 2 count for Rodriguez on James Anderson. And now Nick Rodriguez going after the arm, trying to take out some of the striking base of James Anderson. And Rodriguez has been a ball of fire tonight against James Anderson. And a double underhook suplex followed by this cross arm breaker here. And Anderson doesn't really have anywhere to go. He's got to find a way out of this submission hold. As Rodriguez is wrenching. I mean, Rodriguez is definitely a little bit and a big punch right to the side of the skull there. But as I was saying, Rodriguez is definitely a little bit smaller than what James Anderson is. But James Anderson, he's making good use of the speed he has and the strength advantage he has. And as you see, Anderson here, standing T-bone suplex there to Nick Rodriguez. And now Anderson is going to start working on the legs again. And like I said, Anderson wants to single out the knees of Nick Rodriguez to try to take out that speed. And as you see, Anderson sending Rodriguez into the ropes. Again, tried for that shoulder block, but Rodriguez able to pull the brakes on it. And another drop kick right to the knee. And as you see, Rodriguez got back to his feet and just a flurry of strikes and then a big right hand there. Going for the cover. 1, 2, and another 2 count for Nick Rodriguez. As, like I said, James Anderson has not been able to get anything definite going match-wise. He hasn't been able to get any big momentum going. And Rodriguez is definitely dishing it out to James Anderson. He's showing that he deserves to be here in a big standing enziguri there in the corner. And as you see, Anderson now spilling to the outside, pandering to the crowd as Rodriguez jumps out. A big missile drop kick right to the outside mat out there. And again, that mat that's not a thick mat. That's a very thin mat. And again, the referee utilizing his 10 count here. And Rodriguez trying to just give some pain to James Anderson, you got to believe. And as you see, the referee utilizing his count. Like I said, he's got until 10 count And Rodriguez now back into the ring and breaking the count by getting out. And it allowed Anderson enough time to turn it back around into his favor. Anderson, that elbow right across the top of the forehead. And Anderson showing his frustration, picking up the steel steps. But unfortunately, luckily cooler heads prevailed there. And Anderson now, again, going to work, or trying to go to work on the arms of Rodriguez, trying to take out the striking game of Rodriguez, because although Rodriguez is not a large superstar, his punches do have some sting behind them. And as you see, Anderson now tying up the elbow, the left elbow, and doing an Indian deathlock on it. And, Anderson again with another big right hand. And Anderson calling Rodriguez to his feet. And Anderson, that wild type uppercut. And another one. And now what is Anderson going to do? I mean, Anderson probably should have went for a pin off of those two uppercuts, but he didn't. And Anderson now going off the ropes in that springboard uppercut. Going for the cover now, hooking the far leg. 1, 2, and only a 2 count for James Anderson. And now Anderson starting to get in the referee's face. And as you see, it allowed Rodriguez enough time for that side belly to back suplex to start getting some type of momentum back in his favor. And again, Rodriguez jumping back to his feet. And James Anderson again with the big right hand there. And a standing Pele kick from James Anderson to Nick Rodriguez, as now Anderson looks like he's setting up for a big knee drop right across the skull, right across the top of the forehead there. And as you see, Anderson again taunting, as you can hear the fans are just booing him. And Anderson with a modified rotating STO. And now Anderson is again calling Rodriguez to his feet. And now Anderson with a rolling leg hook here. Trying to work this submission, as Nick Rodriguez has to do something. He's either got to tap out or he's got to find a way out of this submission hold. And Rodriguez able to get himself out, but what damage was done to the leg, as now Rodriguez sends Anderson to the corner, runs up, a big running kick there, going into the ropes. Oh, and a springboard kick right to the face there. 1, 2, and a 2 count for Nick Rodriguez on Anderson. And now Nick Rodriguez sending Anderson back into the ropes. A quick jump over there. He catches Anderson with a flip bottom there, followed by a standing shooting star press corkscrew shooting star press. 1, 2, 3, and Nick Rodriguez picks up a big win in his debut on TBP, or on NGCT. I'm sorry about that. And so congratulations goes out to Nick Rodriguez. As for James Anderson, I think his downfall in that matchup was his arrogance. He had a lot of arrogance going into that matchup because he has experience inside of the TBP ring. However, Nick Rodriguez showing that he's no stranger to in-ring competition, and he's no stranger to the in-ring environment. So congratulations again to Nick Rodriguez. You deserve that one, as you picked up one heck of an impressive victory. But now we switch gears to some diva action here. This young lady, Shell Fire, she's looking to have a little bit of fun against her opponent tonight. Or it may not even be fun, it may just be all serious business. But her opponent tonight was featured on our Christmas edition, our Christmas special, where Die Hard F5 Santa Claus, which I believe was very inappropriate. But anyway, so Shell Fire is facing the young Hannah Brightly tonight. And this is going to be one of those matchups that I think is going to be a nice surprise to see. No doubt about it. And for Shell Fire, I believe this is her debut anywhere. I don't think many people have seen this young woman. And a few people have seen Hannah Brightly, especially those from RSG. So for Hannah Brightly, this was something that she wanted to do, and so she's got one heck of an opponent tonight, though, in Shellfire. I think this is going to be an interesting. This is definitely going to be an interesting matchup. We have Shellfire, who's very dictating in her pacing, and we have I hate to say it like this, but the clumsy Hannah Brightly. So we're going to see Hannah Brightly Shellfire going one-on-one in just a few moments here, and I can't think of a better way to keep rolling through on MGCT. So Shellfire versus Hannah Brightly, one-on-one, and here we go. And as you see, I mean, right from Shellfire just taunting Hannah Brightly there, and a big standing drop kick from Hannah Brightly, and Hannah Brightly getting right into Shellfire's face, but Shellfire responded with a slap, and now we're seeing the Divas here. Shellfire, just a flurry of elbows, sending Hannah Brightly onto the apron, followed by that hot shot, and again, very select maneuvers by Shellfire, as Hannah Brightly now unable to get back to her feet in a manner where she's able to stand under her own power. As you saw, she fell twice there. That hot shot may have done more damage than she thought. And Hannah Brightly, though, trying to get some momentum going, and Hannah Brightly going right for the legs, going to try to kick out the knees of Shellfire, sending Shellfire right to the mat. And Hannah Brightly again taunting, and that's one of those small mistakes I think that Hannah Brightly makes. She loves the fans, she loves being in the ring, and I think sometimes she gets a little too excited out there, and she tends to make some errors and mistakes, and she can't afford to make any mistakes or errors right now, especially in this matchup against Shellfire, because Shellfire will find that weakness and she will take it apart. And as you saw, a big flapjack there, just sending Hannah Brightly right onto her chest, and now Shellfire with an abdominal stretch here, wrenching on the abdomen area of the young Hannah Brightly. And Hannah Brightly, a quick hip toss to get herself out of that. Now Hannah Brightly doing a little bit of a dance there with that elbow drop, and then again going back to the well again with that elbow drop. But Shellfire able to counter from the ground. And just, that was strength by Shellfire there, just picking up Hannah Brightly and dropping her on her back. And then again, a standing backhand chop there. And for Shellfire, she's, like I said, she's very precise with what she does. And Shellfire again getting in the face of Hannah Brightly. Hannah Brightly starting to get a little fired up there with two big right hands and a third one. And Hannah Brightly just punching away on Shellfire, trying to get something going. Shellfire sends Hannah Brightly into the, or Hannah Brightly sent Shellfire into the ropes, and Hannah Brightly there was able to get a little bit of momentum into the cover of 1, 2, and a 2 count for Brightly as Fire was able again to kick out, and Hannah Brightly got right up to the referee saying that should have been a 3 count. I mean, you got to believe it was very close to being a 3 count, but for Shellfire, she is definitely having her way, and as you see, the referee admonishing Shellfire for those close fist punches, and Hannah Brightly able to counter from the ground, sending Shellfire into the corner. Hannah Brightly, big right hand there in the corner, and now Hannah Brightly pillar to post here, sending Shellfire into the other far corner. Hannah Brightly getting fired up here, runs in, a series of right hands, followed by a big uppercut in the corner there, and that's how you bring your opponent down. And as you see, Hannah Brightly getting right in the face again of Shellfire in the corner there. And Hannah Brightly is playing mind games right now with Shellfire, and Shellfire, the big double hand back chop there, and that'll definitely knock the wind out of your sails, and a kick right to the small of the back, right to the spine, as Shellfire now pulling off the turnbuckle pad, and I don't think the referee saw it there, as he had his attention on Hannah Brightly. And Shellfire, a big raised knee lift there, nothing fancy or spectacular about it, just physical pain. And now Shellfire using that exposed turnbuckle, sending Hannah Brightly shoulder first into it, and now again sending Hannah Brightly shoulder first into it. Wait a second. No. Oh, Hannah Braley ran chest first right into that exposed turnbuckle, and allowing Shellfire to maintain momentum here into cover 1, 2, and a 2 count. As somehow, some way, Hannah Braley was able to kick out and get back to her feet. And Hannah Braley, though, is trying to get, and Hannah Braley turning momentum back into her favor, sending Shellfire into that far turnbuckle there. And you're seeing at the top of your screen the ticker information for this week. But Hannah Braley, she's getting fired up here. She's getting a little emotional, runs in, big loop that's press here, and then the close fist punches right on the ground. And the referee now going into the cover here. 1, 2, and a 2 count. The referee did not admonish Hannah Braley for using those close fist punches. I don't think he could get it. I don't think he had a clear shot. And now Hannah Braley, a standing X Factor. They're grabbing the hair of Shellfire. And now Hannah Braley going to work on the arms. And this has been an exceptionally great matchup between these young divas, and that's one thing about NGCT. This avenue allows them that additional time to be seen and to get to do the things that they would like to do in matches. And Hannah Braley now looking for this cross arm breaker submission, as Shellfire's got to find a way to get out of this, otherwise she could suffer severe damage, and she did. Shellfire was able to get out of that submission hold, drop kick right to the chest, or to the back, sending Hannah Braley into the ropes there. And now Shellfire, a clubbing blow. And now on the apron, and a big raised knee lift. And that's not going to do Hannah Braley any favors. And now Shellfire here. Just a basic DDT, but no DDT ever feels good. That is definitely for sure. And Hannah Braley getting called to her feet by Shellfire. And Shellfire kick to the back of the leg, and then that chest kick there. And now Shellfire going for the cover here. 1, 2, and a 2 count for Shellfire, as Hannah Braley somehow, someway was able to kick out. And now again, that abdominal stretch on Hannah Braley, as Shellfire is not showing any remorse whatsoever for the midsection of Hannah Braley, but Hannah Braley with that hip toss. And now Hannah Braley with the float over neck breaker there. And look at this, a succession of kicks, followed up by that drop kick right to the face. And now Hannah Braley going off the ropes here, runs in, that sleeper slam out of nowhere, and that may be it. And Hannah Braley, going for the cover here. 1, 2, 3, and Hannah Braley picks up the win over Shellfire tonight on NGCT. Congratulations to Hannah Braley. But you can't take anything away from either of these young women. Hannah Braley came out here, and tonight she just was the better diva. But for Shellfire, she put on one heck of an impressive appearance tonight on NGCT. And I just saw Hannah Braley there pointing right over to me. And thank you again for, but congratulations again to Hannah Braley. Congratulations to Shellfire. They both came out here and they put out one heck of a good matchup. I personally thought that Shellfire was going to win. I thought for sure that that's the way it was going to happen. Shellfire had maintained a large portion of this matchup was maintained control by Shellfire. But Hannah Braley was able to pull it out, and so congratulations to Shellfire. And not to take anything away from those two young ladies, but we do have to continue to move on. And this is somebody that you may recognize if you watch some of the other TPP episodes, but Kyle Bateman. He has a match on NGCT tonight. He's facing a debuting Eddie Vintage, and this is for Kyle Bateman. He's not that big of a guy, and he's facing a kind of big guy tonight. So I'm interested to see how this is going to happen. And for Kyle Bateman, he doesn't exactly win a lot of matches on Frontline or on Strike Zone, but he doesn't give up, and that's probably one of the most important things about being a wrestler anywhere in any organization. You have to have perseverance. You got to be willing to work no matter what. And so for Kyle Bateman, this is this is an opportunity for him to potentially make that impact that he needs to make and I can't think of a better way to do it than to take out somebody that is debuting. But for those of you that don't know, Eddie Vintage is the ultimate throwback when it comes to how a wrestler is perceived now. Eddie Vintage rocks probably 99% of his move repertoire is moves from the late 80s to the early 90s. And Eddie Vintage is exactly that. He's like a wine. As he ages, he gets better. And so for Eddie Vintage, this is this is something that I think he's going to be pretty good at. I spoke with him earlier today, and he said he's been wrestling for many, many years. And we have a couple of other wrestlers in TPP that have been wrestling for a very long time. And so I think that if the opportunity arises for Eddie Vintage to get pulled up to the strike zone or front line, I think that Eddie Vintage will be able to run with that just fine. And so, as you see, Eddie Vintage not really showing any respect for the fans. He knows that he's a gifted athlete. I've seen some of his independent footage, and he definitely is a very gifted, very, very gifted young man. And so for Eddie Vintage, this is his debut here in TPP on NGCT. And so for Eddie Vintage, he wants to make an impact, and he wants to make it in a bad way. And I can't think of a better way to start it than against CAW Bateman. And here we go. CAW Bateman runs in, big running DDT there. CAW Bateman I think CAW Bateman realized just how much bigger Vintage is than him. And as you saw, Vintage, just a basic hip toss. And now Vintage sending Bateman into the corner there. As Vintage now, a big atomic drop there. And as you saw, he held Bateman up on his shoulder there. And now Vintage sending Bateman into the ropes. And as you saw, Bateman moved to the side, allowing himself to get back into a momentous swing here against Eddie Vintage. But Vintage now, a basic suplex, nothing fancy about it, just a basic suplex. But a suplex like that, it will do damage, and it works. And now Vintage pulling CAW Bateman back into that drop toe hold. And now Eddie Vintage smashing the knee right onto the mat. And for Eddie Vintage, you know that he wants to definitely make that impact tonight. I mean, CAW Bateman, he's going to give it everything he's got, but will it be enough? That remains to be seen, as Eddie Vintage clearly has a strength advantage. I mean, look at the strength here. And now, you don't see this very often, but this is called the airplane spin. And that'll definitely make you dizzy. And as you see Vintage, though, standing there as if it doesn't even faze him. And now Vintage in firm control here of CAW Bateman. But just as I say that, Bateman was able to turn it around with that hip toss, but Vintage again turns it around. And as you see, CAW Bateman trying with a flurry of strikes here, trying to do something to get Vintage down. But Vintage is just more or less bullying CAW Bateman right now. Now Vintage here, a standing basic pile driver. Nothing fancy about that, but it hurts, dropping right on your head. 1, 2, and a 2 count on CAW Bateman there. As Vintage, he pulled Bateman right back into a very stiff elbow, followed up by an elbow drop. And now again another elbow drop from Eddie Vintage. Vintage going off the ropes. CAW Bateman again with that quick hip toss. And now CAW Bateman trying to put it into that high gear here, realizing that he may almost be out of time. And again, Eddie Vintage, that a wild elbow there, just completely grounding CAW Bateman. And now Vintage sending again, pulling Bateman into that drop toe hold. And this matchup thus far has been all Eddie Vintage. CAW Bateman has not been able to get out of the starting gates here. He hasn't been able to get anything going to really favor or benefit him. Vintage now, a basic float over suplex, nothing fancy. Again, nothing fancy, but it has an impact. And now Vintage here, a big third right hand knocking CAW Bateman right down flat onto the mat. And as you see, I mean, Eddie Vintage taunting to this crowd in attendance here as Bateman is trying to strike back. He's trying to get something going. But again, Vintage just too much for. But Bateman, a much needed DDT going for the cover here. 1, 2, and a 2 count. And somehow, some way, and as you saw, Bateman just using every ounce of energy he had to try to knock down Eddie Vintage. But Vintage was able to turn it back around into his favor. And now, what is Vintage thinking here? Vintage sending Bateman to ropes, and again that drop toe hold. And a big kind of seated clothesline there from Eddie Vintage to CAW Bateman, as Vintage now again in firm control of CAW Bateman. It looks like Vintage is having some fun in the ring here, again with that elbow drop. And as you see again, Eddie Vintage just pandering to the TPP universe, and I don't think it bothers him that the fans are booing him. Vintage, that big boot right to the skull there of CAW Bateman. Now what is Eddie Vintage thinking here? Eddie Vintage going off the ropes, big running leg drop there. And now Vintage off the top rope, big flying elbow drop. Going for the cover here. 1, 2, 3, and Eddie Vintage just dominated CAW Bateman in his debut on NGCT. And it makes you wonder what will happen if Vintage comes onto the main roster on Frontline or Strike Zone. You know, how would he fit in there? He looks like he may be the total package coming out of this. He's got the build that Die Hard would like. He's got the features that Die Hard would like. He's got the aggression. It just remains to be seen. You know, is there a future on Frontline or Strike Zone for Eddie Vintage? I mean, CAW Bateman came out here and he tried, but unfortunately for CAW Bateman, it just was not enough tonight. And it's that time, ladies and gentlemen. The main event of the evening is up next, and like I said, we have a very special main event for you. We have 2 full-blooded Frontline and Strike Zone wrestlers. Darren Trinidad, one half of his tag team with Roland Ryder, and he's got a big matchup coming up tomorrow night on Frontline, and he's facing probably one of the hottest prospects in TPP we have right now. Definitely one of the most popular prospects we have in TPP, but he is facing Nick Virtue, and you know, Nick Virtue is going to be coming down here in just a few moments. For Darren Trinidad, though, he's got to have a lot on his mind, knowing that we're coming up on Reckoning. We don't know what the tag team title match picture is going to look like, and you know that Darren Trinidad and Roland Ryder would love to get a tag team title shot. And tonight, Darren Trinidad coming down alone, and you know, I got a feeling tomorrow Trinidad may be a little jet lagged. He's going to be going from Grand Rapids down to Tennessee, so that'll be definitely interesting way to see how that happens with Trinidad. But ladies and gentlemen, like I said, probably one of the hottest prospects in TPP right now. Definitely one of the most popular. Nick Virtue. He recently signed a contract with TPP, a full-time contract, not just 1 or 2 appearances. He's here, and he's here for good. And even in such a small venue, the fans in attendance, they're on their feet as Nick Virtue is coming down here, showing his support for the late great Macho Man Randy Savage. As Nick Virtue here, always a joy to watch, always a pleasure to see, and I'm sure the TPP universe is just as excited to see Nick Virtue, especially on NGCT, because these main roster wrestlers aren't required to be here, but both Trinidad and Virtue requested this matchup, and so I think that this is going to be a good one. Every time I hear Nick Virtue's theme, it just makes me want to sing it. I just want to sing it right along as he's coming to the ring. So Nick Virtue versus Darren Trinidad in a one-on-one environment right here in NGCT, and here we go. And as you see, Nick Virtue getting himself warmed up here, and Trinidad doing the same right off the ropes. And as you see, Trinidad a little bit stronger than Nick Virtue. He's got the strength, but Virtue definitely has speed. As Virtue now switches positions into a side wrist lock, switches positions to the rear waist lock. And Nick Virtue, a basic wrestling belly to back. And as you see, Trinidad here taking a few moments, laying on the mat. Can't believe that he got knocked down like that by Nick Virtue. And again, Nick Virtue side wrist lock into the side headlock here. And again, Nick Virtue, a basic belly to back. Telling Trinidad to get back to his feet, as again Trinidad laying on the mat. Can't believe what's going on. And now Trinidad side headlock, a big elbow there, followed up by a second elbow. And now Trinidad, a side headlock takedown on Nick Virtue, going for the cover here. Not even a 1 count, as I'm sure Trinidad knew that he wasn't going to get a 1 count. I'm sure he's just trying to work Nick Virtue a little bit. Trinidad sends Virtue into the ropes. Beautiful standing drop kick there. Trinidad into the cover here, and a 1 count as Nick Virtue answered with that big right hand. And now the battle of the chops there, but Nick Virtue, big back chop right across the chest, and that'll leave some sting on you into the cover. But Trinidad had his hand right under the rope as the referee saw that. Virtue now, he went for a back chop, but Trinidad countered. Trinidad now lighting up with that strike, or that back chop in the corner. And now Trinidad, another back chop in the corner. And a third back chop there, sending Nick Virtue into the corner here. Another, and that's going to make Nick Virtue's chest red. And a final big back chop right in the corner. They're going for the cover here. 1. And only a 1 count, though, as Nick Virtue was able to get his shoulders off the mat. And I love this. They're having a chopping battle right here in NGCT, and Nick Virtue getting the better of the situation. They're throwing that wild right hand, sending, and wait a second, and Nick Virtue's chest chop right across, that knife edge chop. And like I said, not only will that leave your chest red, but man, that hurts. 1 and a 1 count for Nick Virtue, as he took a little too long to go into that cover. And Virtue now, beautiful side headlock into the dragon sleeper here on Trinidad. And look at this, the positioning. I mean, Trinidad is stuck right in the middle of the ring. Virtue's in perfect position here. Trinidad doesn't have anywhere to go. And Trinidad somehow, maybe the grease in his hair made it so Nick Virtue couldn't hold on to him. Nick Virtue, beautiful side headlock there. And now Nick Virtue tangling up the head there, but the ropes, a little bit of it didn't work the way I think that Nick Virtue planned on it. And again, the rope breaking, and I think that's the height advantage that Trinidad may have. I mean, he may have 1 or 2 inches on Virtue. And Virtue, he stops, he runs in, and a big running kick right off the chest. It runs in, and that quick arm drag from Trinidad, and again the quick arm drag. And now Trinidad, big running bulldog to Nick Virtue, and that'll definitely that won't do you any favors, and that knee to the skull is not going to do you any favors either. And now Trinidad here, this seated camel clutch, putting all of his weight onto the lower back, but Nick Virtue is trying to climb here. He's trying to get to the ropes. He's a long ways away. He's in about the middle point of the ring. So Nick's got to find a way to do this, and he's trying to crawl, but Trinidad keeps pulling that arm back up around his knee, causing more pain, more excruciating pain to the lower back of Nick Virtue. And Trinidad, Nick Virtue's been in this submission for a very long time. Typically, we see the submission already broken by this point. But Trinidad had perfect positioning on it. And for Nick Virtue, he's got to either tap or he's got to snap. He's got to find a way out of it. And he's trying to get to the ropes, but Trinidad is just wrenching and pulling. And Trinidad lets go of Nick Virtue, doing the damage. Trinidad going off the ropes, misses wildly with that clothesline, but makes up for it with the quick uppercut there. And again, Trinidad with another big uppercut. And now Trinidad, a flurry of right hands as he was unable to knock Virtue down into the cover here. 1, And only a 1 count, though, as Virtue still hanging in here. And as you see, Trinidad, a flurry of chops and a big back chop there. And now Trinidad again locking in the submission, this time a single leg Boston Crab here. And this time Nick is much closer to the ropes. As you see, the fans are trying to will on Nick Virtue here. And Virtue makes it to the ropes. Trinidad going off the ropes, and oh, Jesus, the super kick out of nowhere into the cover here. 1, 2, 3, and Nick Virtue, just like that, just jacked the jaw of Darren Trinidad and just took him out. Wow, congratulations to Nick Virtue. I mean, that camel clutch submission it had to be excruciating. But Nick Virtue pulls through, picks up the win on NGCT. And for Darren Trinidad, he's got to go from this to Frontline tomorrow night. Ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time for tonight. I'm so sad to say that. I had so much fun in this brief 40-minute show, but it was loads of fun for me, and I hope you had fun. It was exciting for me. I hope it was exciting for you. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to tune in to TBP Frontline tomorrow night. TBP Strike Zone on Thursday night. TBP Fallout will be Friday night, and then TBP Reckoning this Saturday night. So on behalf of everybody from Creator X and Full Screen, ladies and gentlemen, Reckoning is upon us this week. I'm Christopher Billings. Have a good night, everyone.